Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York-based bassist Bobby Wooten and Chicago-based tenor saxophonist Dustin Laurenzi of the band Snaarj. They took some time out to open up about their latest 2021 CD, the history of the band, and some more. The day Snaarj started recording their new album was the first time in nearly a decade that all four band members had been together in the same room. They were old friends from college. They went their separate ways not long after releasing 2013 CD called Levels. Now they're back. Get to know him and enjoy the interview.
All he said to me to brief me before you got on was, this is one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. So that's it.
I like that.
So, hey, guys, thanks for taking a minute out. You have a very unique sound, unique groove going on. I'm glad to catch up with you.
Thank you.
I want to know, first and foremost, with musicians that are releasing material during this time, and we got, global pandemic, we got racial wars, we got class wars, we got every possible level of American history clashing into one cataclysmic event in 2021. You have music coming out. How does it feel to have music out now?
It feels good.
Yeah.
I don't know. As far as, obviously there's so much happening right now in the world outside of our little music world. I'm super happy to have this music in particular coming out. It's been kind of a long time in the making, and I've been listening to it for a long time while we've been figuring out what to do with it. I'm just really stoked to have people hear it and to be putting it out. Any time, really.
I too, I'm coming out of this project. I'd say we wrote it before, as you said, the apocalypse happened. But when everything happened, especially George Floyd and then Corona too, I do a lot of commercial music, and when it's with artists, I particularly found that so what are we saying? That was more of a question. Then when I'm also doing commercial music, for that, every single ad campaign that I've gotten, when it's the percentage, it's we're about inclusion and we're about this, and I'm very questionable about all things, corporate and their motives and whatnot. So that stuff always felt weird, but this is music that it's not trying to be anything else at all. So that's in a time where we're talking about heavy things, this is certainly one of the more liberating things that, I'm a part of for sure.
So one thing I meant to do before we get into this, because I didn't see a whole lot in the bio about certain things, tell me your full name, your instrument, and where you're coming out of so I have context as we go into this interview for the listeners.
Yeah, so I'm the voice you just heard. Bobby Wooten, play bass in the group. Oh, I'm in New York.
I'm Dustin Laurenzi. I play tenor saxophone, and I'm in Chicago.
The next thing I want to know, I've noticed over this pandemic there's been kind of this evolution of sound in jazz. There's been electronica elements, things that people didn't expect. Talk to me a little bit about how you all evolved into the sound that you have on this album.
We started playing together when we were all in college, about 12 years ago or something, maybe longer. So we were all playing together as this band, Snaarj, and we, spent a lot of time playing together every day and kind of just coming up with some weird music, and we didn't know what to call it. So even then, there was a lot of different influences kind of seeping into what we were doing. And then we all graduated from college and went our own ways. And so when we recorded this new record, we each had almost 10 years of other experiences playing all kinds of music and having all kinds of different experiences and listening to different things. And so I think a big part of this record is we have a history together, but we also have had all this time to kind of soak up other things and other music. And then we kind of came together with not much of a plan or an agenda, and kind of just let a lot of those different influences kind of get into the music in whatever way it happened to it happened to go. But yeah, I mean, we all listen to and play a bunch of different kinds of music and are interested in a lot of different kinds of things. So kind of, it's a lot of stuff going into the music, but it also feels kind of natural, I think.
So what does Snaarj mean?
That might have to be that might have to be kept a secret.
All right, that's for the vault.
Yeah, I like it. That name was born in Vegas, and it's going to stay there. So
exactly.
I guess what I want to know is you guys are in different areas right now, and did this happen because of the pandemic, or were you guys originally doing this in different places, even though you guys were in college together? How did this kind of geographic split happen?
The geographic split was kind of, we like graduate and then people go their separate ways and kind of like, then they make their new home there. But then a friend of mine messaged me and was like, yo, what's up with Snaarj? Or he transcribed like a Snaarj like solo or something. I can't remember. But we basically then hit each other up, and we always kind of joking around like yo, when are we going to link up? Like, when's it going to happen? For like years. And then it just so happened that this conversation was like a little more serious, and like I guess that was December of 2018, around then. And then we found this window of time, and so it was like a week and change that we kind of set aside and really did it before just found that window and took advantage of it. And that was in what, June of 2019?
Yeah.
2019, yeah.
So we've obviously been living through quite a time here, and I want to know from you, I'm trying to keep this on a more positive uptick. What are you hoping that for not only jazz, but for the world of music to happen, that it'll emerge stronger after this? Changes, things that will make this a stronger place to be in?
One potential avenue that I like to see particularly has to do with just like with NFTs, but kind of not in their form that they're in necessarily right now. I guess the idea I like about that stuff is has to do with just IP, intellectual property, and the idea that like even right now you're watching some artists essentially create their own marketplace for the first time, whereas before it's like dictated by just whatever the standard is. Even if you're selling a single, it's like 99 cents. That's what it has to be. Album has to be $9.99. I just think I'm particularly like the potential of what things could be as artists even get more creative with it over the next 10 years. I think is like a lot of possibilities, and it kind of goes along with the bigger narrative of like us being, okay, we know institutions and power and things like that, and there's that is all over the music industry. So I guess for me, like outside the music itself, just like thinking about the industry, the idea of like more power to creators, I kind of feel it coming, and hopefully a big wave. So we'll see.
And kind of in a similar vein, but on a maybe more. I mean, I play. Well, I used to play a lot of kind of like smaller jazz improvised music gigs that were like pay the money side is like not always great, and even for places where it seems like you should make whatever a certain amount, maybe it's not it hasn't quite been like what you would hope. So I know there's been talk with musicians about like, man, it seems like when things are starting to kind of come back as far as places to play, it's like maybe we should start kind of making our demands more clear just about what we think is fair and what we think we should be getting paid, and not just kind of going back into doing the same things for the same amount of money. Because it's kind of like this, I don't know, we've had this year and whatever, this year off. So it seems like now's the time to like reset some things. And it's hard to say how that will happen or if that will happen on, on what scale. But, I'm hopeful, I think.
Talk to me a little. I know you both have your own musical influences, but talk to me kind of collectively some of the jazz influences that have been driving forces for the band.
Man, I don't know. Well, it's hard to say because we all studied jazz music and, play jazz music in different capacities. I think I'd probably, of the four of us, I might play like a bigger percentage of my music that I play is like jazz or jazz adjacent. But so we all have listened to a lot of the same records, from like classic Blue Note records to whatever, to more modern music, to old swing music. So it's all in there. It's hard to say with this band because I feel like it's such an open, it's such an open door as far as we kind of, I know it's like a jazz radio show that this interview is for, but I don't think we really think of ourselves necessarily as a jazz band, even though that's a huge part of, of our musical, what we're made up of. But yeah, I think maybe some of the things that influence me in terms of like the process of, or the way that I'm thinking about the music is probably more some of like free jazz, improvised music. Yeah, I don't know, just that gets me thinking, I think, about kind of less obvious ways to think about putting together pieces of music and putting together form, and kind of what does it mean to have these different roles, and can we switch those roles around. So for me, that that music, even though what we play doesn't necessarily sound like that, that kind of can help to guide my like conception of what we're doing sometimes.
Oh yeah, just to tag along to that, I think so when we were doing this, all the time, it was like we were all in school, right? And so studying jazz, and like that's the language, like period. And we also had like our own. It was the Laurenzi Johnson quintet. So four of us were in that, and then we had an additional piano player. But it was the four of us doing that, and that would be more like so it's like the jazz thing. So then when we're doing more traditional, I should say. But so then when we're doing Snaarj, it was not like forget that and let's do this, but more of a deliberate sort of like, oh yeah, but we also love these other like influences that are not like necessarily the jazz thing. So it's almost bridging the gap. Obviously instrumental, and when you have like the ensemble, like two saxophones, bass, drums, it's like that in and of itself is kind of putting in a setting. But then it's bringing in other influences like dirty projectors and stuff. And so kind of in a way, it's like that evolution or that middle ground area that we were, wearing a different hat, I suppose, of what we were recognized as the jazz aspect that we were doing while in a jazz program.
If you come to Kansas City and you do a live show at one of our venues, describe a live show. What could a crowd expect? How would you describe it?
That's a good question, because we haven't played a live show probably in 10 years. So yeah, I've actually thought about this, and I feel like when we were making the record, we were kind of like, we weren't really thinking about how we would play this music live, but I remember maybe a conversation, one night, like, man, I wonder what we would do, like, to play this for real, because this record there's more sounds happening on it than there are people in the band, It's like, it's less of a just like live in the studio record and more of a produced. Yeah, not, at this point, it's kind of hard to say what to expect. I just remember, when we would play shows back in the old days, it was just really exciting and really, there's an energy that I don't know, that was very unique to this band, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. Maybe Bobby has a better way to talk about it.
I would say it would be like in like jazz venues, which was like sometimes that's certainly where we were playing back then. But so even now, like again, instrumentation, 2 saxophones, bass, drums. So like you're hearing that, and we know what like that's capable of. But it also like it's drawing just from like other influences. So maybe just in the context of like it's like jazz, but just a step this way, and you're looking at it like that for like an hour, and hopefully engaged. I mean, those live shows with Snaarj, those are like always some of my favorite stills like gigs I've ever done, because the energy was great. It was like because of its uniqueness. It's like something new for a lot of people, I think, to hear.
Yeah, and I think just hearing you talk about that, I was like, oh yeah, just thinking about like some of the things I remember, being on tour and playing at, we might play at more of like a jazz venue one night. We might play at like an indie rock, small like rock club the next night, and like people, I feel like especially at the non-jazz venues, the things that people would like say to us afterwards, it would be like, whoa, like I don't even know what that was.
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean,
yeah.
Like
I didn't know that was that jazz. I'm not sure like what it was, but it was like it was cool. Like I liked it.
I was just in the studio and I was with this like it was like a 21-year-old pop artist. Like label deal is very like okay, it's that kind of project, and like his A&R was there and stuff too. And I was like, I put it on just as like, little palate cleanser, whatever. We were just talking, and immediately they were like, yo, what is this? And it was like they listened to the whole thing. It was like a more focused listen than, when it's just like music to tune out to. Because Snaarj has always been like, in ways, it's like a through composed thing, like this little journey. And it was just like the full engagement in voice, in like minds that, I mean, we didn't speak about jazz, so I can't comment on the jazz history. I don't know, but I would imagine it's less involved than like I was, for sure. But still, like that interest can be there for maybe more open, more accessible for people that aren't normally like putting on jazz, other than when they just want to like read or something.
So let's take this a step further. Let's backtrack, but look forward. If you all had to come up with a very like brief way of describing the band and what you guys do to kind of advertise and to get people into a live show here in Kansas City, describe who you all are, both of you, in your own separate ways.
If I was really going to go elevator pitch, here you are, you got me, like 2 floors, I'd be like, firstly, 3 geniuses I'm playing music with. 2 saxophones, 1 drum, you got a little of the old, a lot of the new, and definitely a lot of dopeness. That would be me.
That's good.
Cool.
Mine would be less exciting. I would get fewer people to come to our show than you. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, the first thing I would be like, 2 saxophones, drums, electric bass, but it's not what you are thinking it is based on that description. It's a shape-shifting tangle of genre and sounds.
Cool. Those are 2 equally cool descriptions of the group. Hey, guys, thank you for taking some time out. I really appreciate you, opening up about the band. Good luck with the album and the return to the stage.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Chicago, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to both Bobby and Dustin on behalf of Snaarj for their time and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.